You've tuned into Bellingham Podcast Media Tech for the week of March 17th, 2016, Episode 3. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. On this episode, AJ dives deep into Apple's Garageband and comes up with some deal breakers. I'll take a 10,000-foot view of the Android mobile operating system, and we'll see where things are headed. And we both get all zen while embracing our analog side in a digital world. All that and more on BPM Tech.
Wow, that actually sounded like a legit intro.
I don't mess around.
That was nice. I like it.
Yeah, well, you know, we do what we can.
Well, how'd you survive the spring storm that just hit Bellingham?
It was a fun time where our house is at. We unfortunately are neighbors to a lot of trees, and
yes.
We had a fairly big branch come down and do a little bit of damage to our upper roof gutters. So for all the roofing companies in Whatcom County around here, this is their Christmas time.
Word.
So we got a little bit of repairs to do, but you know, that's why we do our tax returns. That's where we're going to put our tax returns.
Yeah, it is that time of the season. And actually, we'll get into a couple of apps and a couple of services that might help other folks deal with collecting their information for their tax returns.
How'd the windstorm go for you?
Not bad. Luckily, we have that new roof that got on before the storm.
That's always helpful.
So we were pretty much unscathed, knock on wood. Mm-hmm. No problems, no leaks, and yeah, I feel blessed that I did not have to pick up shingles from my roof like I normally do after every windy season.
That's always a good thing, and one less thing to have to worry about.
We are sitting where, Mr. Powell?
We are at the Union Coffee Shop in downtown Bellingham on State Street, overlooking the Shakedown, the Color Pot near Bella Flora, right in the heart of downtown. Great location, great coffee, great view, and definitely lots of free or available parking, especially on the weekends.
Absolutely. Although it is finals week up on campus.
Correct.
This is the most packed I have seen the Union. We've been out here actually several times for quote-unquote meetings. And it's kind of cool that this place is kind of a little bit more hopping because it is a subdued location.
Correct. And also when one needs to study, you got to be able to find that kind of solitude or that kind of availability to spread your books out, spread your binders out, and get your notes set up. And there's plenty of room available here at the Union Coffee Shop. And also a nice environment. You'll notice, at least I'm noticing right now, as I'm evaluating the ambience of a place, the music soundtrack is not overbearing.
No. As
opposed to a place I went to earlier this morning. It's a retail store in Bellingham that sells a lot of books. And when I hear all the single ladies played at a fairly loud volume as I'm like browsing a book, that really isn't conducive to my experience. When I'm hearing I'm not, it's slightly distracting. And one of the things that appeals to me is a non-intrusive music soundtrack as it's playing in the background as I'm trying to do whatever I'm doing in a venue.
Right.
And so props to the Union Coffee Shop here on State Street in Bellingham for not being distracting with their music choices.
And we're trying not to be distracting as well. It's kind of nice being able to podcast with our indoor voice.
Yes.
And not have to, yell and,
That'll be saved for Ski to See when we're down in Fairhaven and people are all around us. Or we're in a windstorm like we are about to have later this afternoon, perhaps. Or maybe what we went through. I don't want to jinx it.
Don't say that. Don't jinx us.
Anyway.
Yepper. Let's dive in. So I have a little bit of a rant, Mr. Powell.
All right, let her rip. Go ahead.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
What's it this time, though?
Okay, so Garageband. So this wonderful show is pretty much produced all on the fly. I have a blog post, actually, that I'll be posting up here probably this week, describing how we do what we do here. And as I speak, my wife actually just took a couple of pictures of us doing this live. But the way that we do this is we capture everything using iOS, so either an iPhone or an iPad, and we've got some mics hooked up, and basically we sync it up in post. And what that means is that Chris is recording synchronously with me, but we're on two different devices. The hard part is how do we get us to sound like we're talking all on the same track, right? So to do that, I use GarageBand, have for many a podcast, many a years, and it's kind of my tried and true go-to because it has this thing called auto ducking, i.e. when I talk, the music or your voice kind of dips down, and vice versa. When you talk, I get squelched.
So that's like the auto volume leveling that you hear.
Bingo, bingo.
So that's
DJ,
the ducking.
Ducking.
Got it.
But basically, all it means is that the tracks dip underneath each other under whoever the prevalent track is.
Okay.
And to do it automated is the way to go, because that way you don't have to spend time doing it.
Not really used for talk radio that we have, because so many people are talking at the same time.
Yes.
All right.
So think of it as the manners button. Okay?
Oh, the manner. Nice.
We'll call it auto manners. Okay.
All right.
So needless to say, of course, after our first two and a half episodes that we've done, I decided to fire up GarageBand on my production rig for my actual photography business, and I fire up the newest one, and lo and behold, there is no ducking.
That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, and so I'm like, well, maybe they moved it into a different place, because that happens with new software. You got to get acquainted with where everything is, and it's nowhere. For them to remove anything that deals with, one, narration, or two, podcasting, iPod casting. Ah, man, it just was a kneecap to me. Yeah, so the last episode, I manually ducked every instance that you and I were talking, and it took like 4 times as long. For no reason.
Well,
none.
Your sacrifice of time and effort is very appreciative, because I'm digging how we're sounding, but yeah.
Well, you're gonna dig it even more, because I uninstalled that very quickly, found my old copy of iLife 2011, and installed that.
So this is a case in point for having older software and technology working for what your modern needs are.
Absolutely. So anyway, that is my little word to the wise. If you are looking to podcast, or if you're trying to do simple narration like audiobooks or something, you may find the new, latest and greatest GarageBand 4L Capitan probably not your go-to, especially if you have to do any kind of dipping automatically. If you want to do it manually, it is great. Like for musicians, I mean, I play guitar, you play bass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is great that you can go in with the new GarageBand, use the pencil tool, you can draw your curves. But for narration, oh my gosh, it was horrid.
I can imagine. Well, so we are about a month out, more or less, when this gets aired, from having a tax deadline, tax time, April 15th. We're about a month away. Some people are on the spot once they get their W-2s and all of their tax documents. They fire it up. Yeah, my wife and I usually are on the stick really quickly, because we like getting our return to start our spring projects. But
sure.
As we are approaching this tax deadline, as far as tech resources, what kind of apps could we recommend? What apps do you use that could help you save some money or keep track of your finances?
Well, the thing that I typically go towards is, one, I have an accountant, so I actually have a live person that I talk to when I actually do my taxes. But leading up to that, I try to make his life a lot easier, so I try to have as many digital documents as I can. And so a couple of things. One is, you and I are both small business owners.
Yes.
And so obviously having our records of our sales and stuff, I use Wave Accounting.
Wave Accounting.
Yeah. So
that's an online thing. Yes, you turned me on to that, and I've been very pleased with that. But anyway, go ahead.
So Wave Accounting is a good, especially if you're a freelancer like us, or if you're just trying to do simple invoicing and having a record of sales, it's great. They also have some add-on services that you can pay for. Full disclosure, I do not. I merely use it for my invoicing and just documenting my sales.
Full disclosure here as well. I'm a small business owner. I'm really low tech, but that just is a great way to email the services that I do to the clients. It shows up and it's nicely formatted.
Pretty much. I push print on the reports, and then I hand it to my accountant, and he is happy, and as am I.
We all want to be happy, and I actually use it. It's possible to pay by credit card,
right,
which is also helpful for some clients instead of firing off a check. Yeah. Who uses checks anymore?
I do. I just mailed one the other day.
Okay, well, so not a lot of us, only those in extreme situations would use checks, but Wave Accounting is just a really clean format. And as far as coming up with my end-of-year information for sales and stuff, I'm a fan. And I believe it's waveaccounting.com or Wave Apps.
I think it's Wave Apps.
Waveapps.com.
We'll have a link for that.
There you go.
What about for personal, Chris? Do you have anything that you use to record receipts or anything like that? Or
as far as receipts, I usually use Evernote.
Oh, really?
Which is an interesting it's kind of like my digital file cabinet. We'll talk about Evernote maybe sometime in the future, but with Evernote, you can use it's cross-platform. iOS, Android, PC, Mac, whatever you want to use, Evernote is available. And one of the features, at least on a mobile device, whether it be a tablet or phone, is an ability to take a picture and have it automatically save into your Evernote as a picture. And so any invoice or any receipts that I have, I can also use Evernote to annotate or mark up to add additional information to try to explain, this was when I went to this conference and this was the dinner that I had, as opposed to why is this receipt for whatever sushi for $22? Why is this showing up in my Evernote? So I find that if I have one place to store everything, it helps me, instead of having to keep track, okay, this one is for this one is for this. A compartmentalization of technology is something that I battle on a regular basis. And I found Evernote to be a fairly robust solution for that.
Do you do the paid or do you do the free?
So that's a good question. There are two versions. The free allows you about 40 to 60 megabytes of uploads.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with pictures that could actually be a megabyte or 2 megabytes or 3 megabytes, that free quota could get chewed up really quickly.
Right.
And so I opted to go $5 a month. Actually, I paid the whole year for, I think back then it was like $45 a year. I made an investment into the premium features of Evernote, which gives me unlimited uploads where I could throw everything that I want up there and it'll just store it. And plus it gives me some additional features with the premium package. So
nice.
Yeah. I believe when you have a piece of technology that works for you and provides value for what you need to do, throwing them a couple bucks a month is a it's a well thought out expense, and it's worth it to me.
Totally, I agree.
Yeah.
I use something similar. It's not Evernote, but I actually use an app on iOS, and I think now they have an Android app, but I'm not too sure. It's called One Receipt. And,
very good.
And it's a great app because basically it uses the same functions. You take a picture of your receipt, it will try to digitally read it for you, and then also the price and you can tag things like, for instance, this was for conference, or this was a meal, or this was a business expense. And it's just a good way to not bring home the receipts when you go out.
Paper is a bad thing as it gets piled up. We don't need all that nowadays.
Right. And it's actually saved me a couple of times where we accidentally, there's no we. I put receipts in my pocket and my wife does the laundry. You can do the math.
I do math like that often, yes.
Yeah, so my receipt gets destroyed. So I have a digital copy of it. I can go back and show proof of purchase, and I've had to do that. And for the most part, usually the vendor looks at you like, okay. And then they see, this is a picture of your receipt, and you explain it to them, and usually people are nice about it.
It's always helpful to have a picture or a digital receipt in JPEG or PDF format. You can email that as an attachment, and it shows up nice and clear, as opposed to whatever crinkles or wrinkles or tears might be in your paper receipt. It adds a degree of professionalism and immediacy where you can email something, and now you have now you also have it backed up in your sent items in your email account, which is a double bonus.
So speaking of email account, I also use Google Wallet.
Yes.
So Google Wallet's great because basically if you're an Android or iOS user, you can use it. You can even get a plastic card that says Google Wallet on it.
But that one has a MasterCard affiliation as opposed to Visa.
It is. It is a MasterCard affiliation. It is acting as a debit card.
Have you gotten any weird looks from the people as you've handed over a Google with a W logo on it?
Yep. Yeah. Usually when I use it, I flip it over so they see the MasterCard side, and then they flip it over. Oh, do you work for Google? No.
Well, why don't you say yes? You could get some swag or at least some respect. Or it's like, wow, you work at Google. What's that like? And you can just be a rock star.
Yeah. So Google Wallet's great because basically you can have, if you have an Android device, I understand you can use it as a payment system on certain phones. For everybody else, you can actually get a plastic card, so you can use it as a debit. And what's great is you can control how much is preloaded. It's like a preloaded debit card. And so, for instance, just right now at the Union, I used it to buy our coffee. I immediately get a notification of how much they charged, which I have been in situations where they put in the wrong price.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so I look at my phone and I go back to the waitress and go, excuse me, this should be $4, not $4D. We actually had something like that once.
This is a great solution for those that are really concerned about their credit or debit card getting fraud.
Right.
Whether it be on purpose or accident.
Right, and that's what we use it. We use it typically when we go out or we go traveling.
Sure.
Because we immediately see what the point of sales is, and you can also immediately from your phone cancel the card, pause the card, There's a lot of powerful features that typical quote unquote, banking debit cards, you don't find out till the end of the month.
Pretty much. Or if you're diligent like me and checking your online banking, this is a great way to have another layer of security for your checking account. So I have a Google Wallet account myself, and I have it tied in with a checking account. I don't have to brandish that debit card associated directly. If something happens and I lose my wallet or some other incident, I'm able to go on a phone, on any web browser with Google Wallet and cancel it or stop it. And one less of a headache, but yet one layer of security that can be really valuable for those that are kind of have an anxiety or a lot of concerns, justified concerns about where their money is being spent.
Yeah. And also the other thing I like about it is you can easily manage a budget. So for instance, we loaded up with, say, $100 for the week. At the end of the week, if we go and the card is quote unquote declined, well, it's because we've spent way too much past our budget for eating out that week. There's a lot of helpful features there that if you were trying to teach perhaps young ones how to budget and how to manage money, I could see it as a valuable resource for parents.
Absolutely. And, we have a 13-year-old in our house, and when the time occurs or when the time comes, she may want to have a card to be able to use in the mall, in coffee shops, wherever
Right.
she's with her friends. And here's an option for parents to be able to have a setup, controlled resource for their kids that they're able to monitor and help them learn the right financial tools so that they can be successful later on in life.
Word.
In addition to how we're spending our money, there's a couple interesting apps that I've been able to discover as far as how one can save their money using our phones or mobile technology. One of them, there's actually two apps that I was messing around with. One of them is called Robinhood. For those of you that do trade stocks, Robinhood is an app that is on your iOS, whether it be your iPad or iPhone, and Android. It's a cross-mobile platform, and it allows free stock trading. Now, in a lot of cases, you have a commission of $10 or $12 or whatever the broker charges for every stock trade. This one's free, and at least it's free up to about $5,000, I believe. You can build a personalized stock watch list, so your dream stock portfolio could be viewable in the app. And also, as far as security, we talk a lot about security and what happens when you lose your phone. Would they have access to your financial stock information? This one can be set up with Touch ID if you have a more modern phone, or definitely a PIN code that can be outside or different than your actual phone PIN code. So here's another layer of security to protect your assets. So Robinhood is available on the App Store or on the Google Play Store. But as far as those that want to save, kind of like squirrels saving their nuts for wintertime, there's an app called Acorns, which is both iOS and Android. And Acorns, it's a very unique app where you can save spare change or small amounts from everyday purchases, and it can be invested in a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds by a professional broker. So it's about $1 a month if you have less than $5,000 in your portfolio.
So basically $12 a year and
$12 a year, which that's a lunch if you want to consider the price associated with it. But it's free for anyone under the age of 24, and students with edu email addresses like .edu, they get it for free.
Whoa!
So this is an opportunity for kids to learn a little bit more about saving a couple cents here and there and watching it add up.
Interesting.
And here's a professionally managed portfolio that, they won't be investing in Abercrombie and Fitch.
Right.
But here's a way that they can watch modest incremental profits show up with the whatever you got loose change in your wallet.
I dig it. That's cool. That's a good pick.
Acorns is a pretty cool app. It's free, but of course you need to sign up, and they'll probably associate it with your bank as well and such.
Well, speaking of free, Google's free operating system, known as Android,
that's right,
went all nutty on us and got the new Android N, known as Nutella.
Yeah, so I'm going to go on a little mini rant right now. So Apple in their iOS goes via the number system, and so right now Apple's mobile operating system is 9.2, I believe, and coming out with 9.3. With Nutella, They base their operating systems on desserts. So the current one that they have is Marshmallow, M. The next one, N, is Nutella, and that's great. But I did a little bit of checking on what some of the new features for these modern phones and tablets are going to feature. It looks like it's called multi-window. So it's possible with an Android phone to have two apps running at the same time.
Huh.
Where have you heard this one before?
I believe your iPad Pro does that.
Well, correct. Apple... it doesn't matter who did it first.
Right.
It's who does it well.
Windows originally did it,
Exactly.
Snapping side by side.
Yeah. So a new feature coming up for Android is multi-window, also known as split screen. Another cool feature is when you get a notification, such as a text message or an email, it's possible to swipe down from the top, and in the notification bar, you're able to reply to that message directly from there instead of launching the app like most Android programs are doing right now.
Right.
And that's kind of helpful. One other thing that I really enjoyed was, you can do a lot of customizations and configurations in apps with your settings menu. And with Nutella, the latest version that will be coming out maybe this fall or this summer, there's a slide out settings menu on each app. And so you can quickly access your settings menu to turn down the volume, to do a number of customizations. It's less things you have to touch, less to have to drill down to get to your customization. So as far as the updates Android's making, I think they're doing good work. They're converging, and I just hope that more people will be getting newer phones so that they can adopt the latest operating systems to get more of a unified and less fragmented experience, because with Jelly Bean, Kit Kat, Lollipop, Marshmallow, and now Nutella.
Man, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, exactly. That's definitely a sweet tooth mobile operating system. There's so much variety in how you are able to navigate around. I'm actually lucky enough to teach a class with Waka Community College in the evenings with community education, and I've been able to teach some folks basic Android phone skills, and that was one of the challenges where you've got 11 people in a class, and they have 7 different phones, and they have 7 different operating systems. And so I had to be on my feet, and I had to have my chops, well in tune for that. But at least with the newer versions of Android, once phones are able to upgrade, it's getting better and better for the user experience.
That's good. Speaking of user experience, coming also from the headlines, did you hear that Apple has an event coming up on March 21st?
Oh, stop the presses. Apple's got another We Have Something New fest.
Watch. I bet you I can do this segment in 30 seconds or less. You want to time me?
And go.
Cool. So Apple's probably going to announce something that relates to iOS, probably not OS X, and their theme is Let Us Loop You In. And I'm done. That's it.
7 seconds. Not bad.
Yep. Moving on. So more importantly, you kind of snickered at me when you entered the union. Why is that, Chris?
So I'm walking in the coffee shop. For those of you that aren't here watching us record this live, and I look to my right, and I see this fellow with this nicely coiffed bearded fellow with a beret on, with a Smith Corona Galaxy 12 manual typewriter. God help us! It's blue, it's white, it makes the clackety clack, and I'm like,
and the ding. It even does the ding,
and the ding.
See if I can get it to ding.
Yeah, you may hear some ambient sounds as AJ's messing around with his. Oh man. So normally what you would find as a ringtone or a text message notification is now an actual device.
Yes.
I had to laugh because in a coffee shop full of people, I'm looking at a typewriter, tap, 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 tap. And I'm like, did I just have a Back to the Future moment? I'm back in 1962.
Well, I've mentioned this before, and one of the things I do typically on the weekends, I have no house right now, Chris. So one of the things I do every month is I'm a Patreon creator.
Yes.
And so people support my photography online. And
where can they support you online?
Patreon.com/AJ Barce.
Excellent.
And so one of the levels of my patronage is called Skookum. And all it is that they support me at the highest level. And every month I actually hand print, i.e. with film. I'm a digital photographer, and I print with film. One of my prints that I theme for that month, and because it was February, it's winter and such, so that's what that theme is. But the other thing is that I hand write, or in this case hand type, a letter to each one of those patrons. largely because my theme is every moment has a story, and I want every print, because when you print a film, there's a little bit of variance. So every one that I send is unique, and I wanted a letter, an update from me, and thanking them for their patronage, but also looping them in on what I'm doing as an artist. Every one of these letters are hand done by me, not by a laser printer. So it's literally going back to the roots of being a real artist. You are making a one of a kind for your patron.
Not only is that impressive that you're busting that out in public, but that you're doing something personalized.
Yes.
And if I've received a form letter that's totally evident, that is, thank you for your support.
Yeah.
You're actually creating a document, something
Correct.
that you're like mailing with a stamp.
Yes.
That is definitely worth whatever skookum patronage to support your work. What a unique idea.
Yeah. So I thought so, and it fits within my theme and how I do things. And one of the things that you and I've talked about frequently is disconnecting. The fact is, I don't get text messages on my Smith Corona.
But you do hear dings.
You do hear dings, I don't get tweets. I don't get distracted. And that's the other nice thing about it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I usually do every Saturday morning, except right now I'm in my remodel. I usually sit in my chair, I drink my coffee that I make by hand on a Bialetti, made in Italy coffee pot. I have my typewriter, or I have my journal, and I've got usually either a podcast. Usually it's Rick Steves' Travel in Europe, not going to lie. Hopefully, Rick, if you listen to our podcast, huge fan.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on the show sometime if you'd like.
So anyway, and I disconnect all my notifications. I'm just there, typewriter, journal, and listening. And that's how I detox once a week. And so now I have to move it to Sunday because we're doing the show now on Sundays. So I brought my tool in and I started clickety-clacking, and you know what? The barista was just like, yes, that is awesome.
Well, it's so retro enough that it's very, it's rare, but it's awesome. And as far as how it's being received, as opposed to like, what the heck is that?
Yes.
What are those?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's also like, I'm not a hipster, okay? It is actually a tool as an artist. So
you got to use the tools that matter for you in how you're able to do your craft.
Exactly.
And you're choosing tools that are unique, that they're conversation worthy, and they're not run of the mill.
Yeah. What do you do to disconnect? Do you do it once a week? Do once a month? Once a day? What do you do?
It's when you're a technologist and you're working 40 plus hours a week in front of a screen, you got to have time where you can unplug it, because if the screen is your life, things are going to get difficult very soon. I actually seek solitude. I've embraced my introvert nature, and a lot of what I can do in just like doing a brain dump of all the thoughts in my head, I need to get them just out. And I use a Post-it note, but it's a special kind of Post-it note. 3M makes a 12-inch by 12-inch, like a foot by foot, green Post-it note. And it's actually, I spoke about Evernote a little while ago.
Awesome.
Evernote colors of green, but it's a one big monster Post-it note. And with the pen, I write down whatever's on my mind. I make lists. I doodle. I come up with ideas. I come up with strategies, and I just let my mind wander instead of going through procedures to fix technology.
Interesting.
So it's a way that I'm able to go analog without having that. I do have a phone by my side, and I usually have a Jawbone Era earpiece in my ear where I listen to ambient music.
Nice.
Tempo-less, wordless waves of sound that allows my brain to kind of just not pay attention to the music, but there's something in there that it will start my creative juices flowing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
If I could segue with that, so my full analog, as you laughed at me earlier, if I went semi-analog, I use an app, I use that loosely. It's a piece of software called Omm Writer, OMM Writer.
Is it for Buddhists?
Well, it could be. What's cool is that it uses the same idea that you just said, but puts it onto a Mac screen, or they also have an iOS app, but I don't usually use it. But on my Mac, I've used it since I was a grad student, and what's great is it blanks out the entire screen. You do not see your dock, you do not see your notification, you don't even see the time.
That's helpful.
And then you can customize the clicks. So you can customize actually, as you type, it will simulate different types of keyboards from, a typewriter all the way moving forward to like the old IBM click, remember those clicky keys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you can have that experience. You plug in headphones so that you can drown out the rest of the world, so you can focus on one thing. writing.
Creating.
Yep. So you just have a white screen, or you can put different backgrounds to it. And then it has ambient music tracks that you can select.
I like it already.
Yep. So that's Ohm Writer. That's my pick if I had to go analog, but rocking digital technology.
And is that a free app, or is that...
No, it's an independent developer. I think it's like $5.
So you throw them a latte for their work.
And it's worth it to me. And I think they actually sent me an email a while back. They're actually in the works of making like an Ohm Writer 2.
Oh, very good.
So I look forward to that.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on that for future releases. There's a couple apps that I use as far as in relating to ambience. For the past 2 episodes, we've been in coffee shops.
Yep.
And there's something about the white noise level of conversations and the clinks and the sounds from a coffee shop that for some reason is what draws people to this environment. And there's a couple apps that I've found to be fairly helpful, both I believe on your web browser and an iOS and perhaps Android. We've got to double check that, but it's called Coffeetivity.
Coffeetivity.
Combine coffee and productivity. It's a productive way of, but you can dial in certain sounds. There are field recordings that are made, and simply it's just playing the sounds of a coffee shop in the background that you can have instead of listening to music on your iTunes or on your Google Play Music player. You get the sounds of a coffee shop, kind of like the beans grinding behind us right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was nice timing.
And so I believe it's a free app, but you can also go to coffeetivity.com, and it would be something that you could play in your desktop computer while you're doing your work. Just open up a tab in your web browser. It's something I do every now and then, just get the environment of a coffee shop without having to pay for anything. The next one that I really enjoy is called Noisely, Noisli. And this is an app that you get to customize, kind of like a mixer. You want to dial in the sounds of rain or a crackling fire or the ocean or a fan or white noise if you want to go to sleep. It's a great app as far as dialing in certain noises, Noisli, that will allow you to focus and work on something or have something in the background instead of the television.
I like that. Well, wrapping up this show, is there anything that you're looking forward to in the next upcoming week?
Definitely looking forward to learning more about how I can... I'm currently in a battle right now with my information flow, or my information diet. When I receive information like a cool news article, where do I put it? How do I save it for later? How can I pick off the certain parts that matter instead of all the ads or all the other information? Save that nugget for later for my own little reference or my own little wiki. There's many options with Instapaper and Pocket and saving it in Evernote. Exactly. I'm also weighing that compared to Apple Notes.
Oh, interesting.
As a way, how can I access this in a quick format when I'm doing research? And
now the wind's picking up.
Yep. So here comes the windstorm. Anyway, that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. How about you?
Upcoming this week, on the other side of the globe, is Baselworld.
Baselworld, okay.
Yeah,
what's Baselworld?
Baselworld, if you're a horologist or a person who loves watches.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yes. So Baselworld is the big trade show, and I'm more excited about that than the announcement of whatever Apple's got planned in Cupertino, to be honest.
Well, so as a watch aficionado,
yes.
Is there some company that you have your eye on?
So one of my favorite companies, which actually is not like the upper echelon of Swiss watches, I do own one, is called a Frédéric Constant. And they're targeted towards people like us, the everyday average Joe who has an appreciation for the more bespoke or fine pieces of horology or watches, as it were. And they make it reasonably priced, but they are Swiss. They're made in Swiss quality, whole 9 yards. And last year, they announced the first horological smartwatch, and they've really been touting it. It's a smartwatch. It tracks your steps, but it's a real watch with real. It's a quartz movement, but real Swiss-made analog display. I think it gets like 6 months of battery.
That's always helpful compared to our phones, which lose a charge in a day.
But you do sacrifice things. You don't have notifications. You don't have the constant barragement of distraction that we talk about. And so it's an interesting concept. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but I like that movement, as it were, in the space of watches.
So it sounds like with analog being infused with digital, would you consider this a hybrid watch, or is there a better way to describe this?
I like the fact that the Swiss are trying to they're trying to approach this new concept of wearables, but they're not compromising on the fact of their tradition. Tag Heuer had one called the Tag Heuer Connected. It's an Android watch, but what's funny is that if you own it for 2 years and you throw down like $2,500 on this watch, which in Swissville that's pretty cheap, but after 2 years they'll let you trade it in to get a real Tag Heuer for like an extra $1,000 or something. Like, it's really interesting that wearables and the Swiss market are trying to talk to each other, and there's a huge technological barrier, I think.
I would imagine, but what do you see things headed a couple of years down the line?
I don't know. Like, I think there's something to be said about a mechanical watch, like the one that I'm wearing now. As long as I wear it, it never dies. It keeps time. I can look at it and tell you what moon phase it is a lot faster than you can say, "Hey Siri." You know, for me, it's one of those things where it is the best tool for the job, no differently than my typewriter or your pen and paper and Post-it. You know, it's one of those things where I don't want another device to distract me, because I'd rather just live life and be able to glance down and see the time or see what matters to me. And on top of that, this type of thing, I'm starting a family, Chris. Like, I plan on passing this down to my child of children.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to do that with an Apple Watch. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen.
So what you're trying to say is that initial iPod that was the 1,000 songs in your pocket, you're saying that my descendants won't want to have that as an heirloom from me?
Well, let me ask you
like
this.
Like, technology isn't...
do you got an Amiga laying around still?
No,
like,
I don't.
No. How about Pong?
No.
Oh, I shouldn't say that. I do, actually.
Yeah, that's bad.
But it's one of those things where, again, I like the tradition of the Swiss and the Germans when it comes to timepieces, because they are an heirloom, the original heirloom technology. It's the only piece of technology throughout time, no pun intended, that you can think of that actually either gets passed down or reused or recycled, and it still works. The same timepiece in 1882 could still run today and still does the exact same function it was made for. Tell time.
Once again, the mainstream mindset is of disposable everything,
right?
And here's a Smith Corona Galaxy 12 and
made in America,
USA.
Yeah.
But to have something that goes against the grain of where we purchase things that we're going to have a 6-month shelf life and throw it away, this is a worthy investment,
right? And so that's what I look forward to. I also look forward to the big ones like IWC and Patek Philippe and all these brands that our mortgages look like chump change compared to some of these timepieces.
Sure.
But I can appreciate as a technologist what it took for that watchmaker to make that thing. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Well, hopefully we'll have a follow-up after Basel World and get your thoughts on what might be out there for those that want to invest in a timepiece.
Indeed. So Chris, let's wrap up the show. Where could they find you on the interwebs?
You can go to my website if you want to stalk me, chrispowell.co. I'm also doing a writing blog where I am sticking my toe in the transparency pool. And I'm also sticking a tool or two online with my mini essays. Less300.com, less300.com is a site that all entries are less than 300 words.
That's cool.
Bite-sized thoughts, mini sermons, if you will, just getting things out of my system. And it's been I find a lot of joy in being able to communicate thoughts or stories or ideas. And also I'm at Minimal Tech on Twitter, MNMLTEK. I'm so minimal, I don't really like vowels. How about you? Where can people stalk you on the net?
They can stalk me on Twitter at AJ Barce, and they can also hashtag the show, hashtag BHamPodcast, and we'll check that tag if anybody has any shout-outs or if they have any questions they'd like to have on the show.
Yeah, shoot us a couple of tech questions or other questions you'd like us to address on the air. I'd love to get some viewer mail, so to speak.
Or viewer tweets.
Yeah, that's right. Viewer tweets could be helpful, too.
And then you can also find me on my website, ajbarce.com, or you can become a patron of my photography if you so like my style, and that is Patreon, patreon.com/AJBarce.
And with that in mind, we want to thank you all for making it through this podcast. AJ and I are definitely enjoying the process and enjoying being able to have conversations and talk about everything.
Pretty much.
And if you like it, continue to come to our website, bellingham.podcast.com, or if you're in iTunes or a particular podcast app of your choice, I would love to have you subscribe, and you'll get, once we upload the next podcast, you'll get it right to your device. Love to hear your thoughts. Give us a rating if you like in the iTunes store. Drop us a line, in the places we talked about. Love to hear from you.
Yep. Thank you so much for tuning in. Coming to you from a very windy city of subdued excitement, I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. See you next on BPM Tech.